Chapter 81, Hanging by a Thread. Hawthorne was suddenly confused. What does it mean? A mother of the Blue Dragon royal family has taken a liking to me? Why the hell do I always encounter this kind of thing? Hawthorne couldn't help but curse inwardly. He had thought that having a handsome appearance in his new body after transmigration would be a good thing. However, up until now, this face has not brought him, or the original owner of the body, any benefits, but instead has caused constant trouble. First is the original host, who was targeted by Heidi because of this face, and had their soul sucked dry. Next is himself, because his appearance is too outstanding, he was remembered by the hooligans of the Sean Nasa Guild, and then he was investigated by the investigation team of the Black Cane Tower. And now, there is another unknown wealthy lady who wants to buy him as a pet. Damn it, I might as well disfigure myself. He cursed inwardly, pondered for a moment, lifted his head, with a determined look in his eyes, and said to Ramon, "I'm sorry, respected Ramon." 80,000 gold coins, Ramon said. Hawthorne's breath caught, but his tone remained firm. "I'm sorry, 100,000 gold coins, Ramon announced another new price, then added, "Her soul is in great need of comfort. If she can be happy and generously reward, the price will be far more than this." On the side, the Blue Dragon descendant employee couldn't help but glance at Hawthorne, only to see the latter's face filled with shock. However, he then took a deep breath and remained resolute in his attitude, saying, "I apologize, esteemed Lord Rahman. Before expressing my stance, I must first state that it is truly an honor for me to receive the appreciation of a great blue dragon. But for now, what I am seeking is legitimate business cooperation. If, by some assumed favor from the Blue Dragon Queen, I were to obtain a large sum of money, it would be mixing personal gains into our official collaboration. If there is no distinction between public and private matters, then I will inevitably gradually slack off in official duties and invest most of my energy in pleasing this hypothetical mistress. As a result, in the long run, our interests will be harmed, and I will ultimately provoke the furious anger of this mistress and meet a disastrous end." Saying this, he slightly bowed and said, "In order to avoid this lose-lose situation, please allow me to decline the appreciation of this assumed Blue Dragon lady." Saying this, a layer of cold sweat had already soaked his back. Actually, this passage may sound long, but it can be summarized in one sentence: "I'm not going to serve you." He certainly didn't want to serve. Who knows what kind of special interests and hobbies this supposed Blue Dragon mother has. I guess steel wool and alcohol blowtorch are just the beginning. Being over 300 years old, this lonely Blue Dragon mother, who knows how many cruel ways she has mastered to play. It's not worth it to cripple oneself for a little money. As a player, Hawthorne has seen money before. In the later stages of the game, he casually spends hundreds of thousands or even millions of gold coins. How could he possibly sell his own character and body for just a mere 100,000 gold coins? However, he felt that he had already spoken in a polite and respectful manner, but he believed that the Blue Dragon in front of him should understand. He didn't know the personality of this Blue Dragon named Ramon, as this character did not originally exist in the game. Therefore, he was extremely nervous now and even doubted if he could walk out of this bank alive. Mad, this is a genuine Blue Dragon. And this is their stronghold, who knows how many terrifying beings are still hidden here. A cold sweat dripped down his forehead, while across from him, Ramon's golden vertical pupils stared fixedly at his face, observing his expression. The hall was as silent as death, as if the calm before the storm. After a long time, the Blue Dragon suddenly chuckled. "Very well, Mr. Hawthorne," he said, "congratulations, you have passed my test. I have been searching for a partner who is flexible in handling situations, yet resolute in their convictions, someone who won't change their mind even when faced with challenges. Unfortunately, the people I have encountered so far have been shameless flatterers. How can I trust someone like that with my funds?" he said, sighing softly. The atmosphere in the hall relaxed a bit, and Hawthorne also breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he secretly thought to himself, "Damn it, you're only saying this because I stood my ground, right? If I agreed, it would probably be a different story, right?" Not only did he think so, but also the male blue dragon descendant employee on the side secretly criticized in his heart, thinking, "My lord, you have never personally received any clients before. Why are you suddenly testing a human now? You are clearly looking for a new hairstyle for your mother." Two humanoid creatures each have their own thoughts in their hearts, but on the other hand, Rahman doesn't care about what they think. He then extended a dragon finger, on which a red gemstone ring was worn, emitting a gentle magical glow. Countless red magical threads extended from it, condensing into a seal, and slowly falling onto the table in front. "The amount of the first investment will be set at 20,000 gold coins," he said. "Blue Dragon Bank doesn't deal with small businesses, so you can spend a bit more freely. Be bold, Mr. Hawthorne. I see your talent in your proposal, so go ahead and unleash it." He encouraged so much, and at the same time he was not stingy with his words of praise. The more he did this, the more uneasy Hawthorne felt, always sensing that this guy was hiding some undisclosed conspiracy. He must be thinking that once I lose all my capital, I will have to let him manipulate me. Sigh. This money feels a bit hot to handle. Please discuss the specific details of the agreement among yourselves. Saying this, the massive blue dragon slowly stood up, swinging its tail that was as long as its entire front half, leisurely turned around, and walked towards the gate it came from. And just as he was about to leave, his huge head suddenly turned 180 degrees, and his large dragon face smiled at Hawthorne at the door, saying, "Good luck, young sir. I look forward to the day when you achieve great success." After saying this, he took another step forward. The door of the room slowly closed, and at this moment, the blue dragon prince finally left completely. Hawthorne let out a sigh of relief, and his heart finally settled back into his stomach. At that moment, the male blue dragon descendant employee, who was standing beside him, approached with a smile and said, "Please come this way, sir. We have a ready-made template for the contract here. Take a look and let us know if there are any modifications you need. If not, we could have signed today." Chapter 82, Annihilation of the Investigation Team. Blue Dragon Bank, top floor. Rahman, who had just returned to his room, looked calmly down below at the figure of Hawthorne slowly walking out of the bank's main gate. He sighed quietly only after Hawthorne disappeared at the end of the street. "The gift for my mother has been settled, but it still needs a little time to brew. Just last year, Rahman's mother's second husband died in a battle with an ancient mummy, and his body was turned into a dragon which, unable to be resurrected. Although the family quickly eliminated this blasphemous spirit, his mother still fell into immense grief and has not been able to recover to this day. Regarding this, although Rahman doesn't have deep feelings for his stepfather, he cares a lot about his mother. Therefore, he really wants to find a beautiful enough gift to help his mother overcome her sadness and regain happiness. And Hawthorne, he is the perfect gift that Rahman is currently interested in. The captivating charm he possesses deeply attracts Rahman's attention and convinces him that this human can definitely make his mother very happy. On the negotiation table just now, the blue dragon did indeed want to take direct action, capture him, tie him up, dress him up nicely, put him in a gift box, and then present him to its own mother. He is confident that, with his mother's beauty, generosity, and gentleness, this human being will not blame himself in the end, but will instead understand his sincere intentions. But after careful consideration, in the end, he decided to give up on this idea. "My mother is still immersed in sadness and unable to escape the shadow of losing her husband. In this state, what she needs is a pet that truly loves her, to comfort her pain, rather than a beautiful human doll filled with fear and resentment, and requiring her own tenderness to warm the other person. Moreover, there are still plenty of beautiful creatures from various ethnic groups who were once violently captured by their elders and therefore harbor resentment. From the majestic unicorns in the heavenly realm to the charming underground dwarves, they can be found in abundance within their respective families, including the human of the Qingyin tribe. So, forget it. Instead, think of a way to make him genuinely and wholeheartedly love and serve his own mother." With this idea in mind, Rahman approved a sum of 20,000 gold coins for Hawthorne to squander. This money is just a drop in the bucket for him. On any ordinary day, any low-level bank teller can easily make more than 10 similar investments in a single day. But for Hawthorne, this is simply an unimaginable sum of money. Until the moment Hawthorne walked out of the Blue Dragon Bank with 2 copies of the contract, his mind was still somewhat hazy, his steps were somewhat floating. He couldn't believe that not only did he see a real blue dragon, but also, after refusing the other party's request, he managed to secure an investment that exceeded 150% of the requested amount. 20,000 gold coins. So easily, it's already in hand. This. However, at the thought of the Blue Dragon's proposal, Hawthorne couldn't help but shudder. Damn it, it actually wants to send me to the bed of a middle-aged female blue dragon as a plaything. I, Hawthorne, would rather die poor, die outside, or even jump off from Nan Gang, but I will never become a gigolo. Dignity is one aspect, but the most important thing is that the rich lady's manipulation is really deadly. Shaking his head, Hawthorne dismissed these thoughts from his mind and began to feel a slight hunger in his stomach. At this time, the sun was leaning towards the south, and it was already past the lunch hour. He then strolled on the street, walking through the shadows cast by tall buildings. He found a lamb skewer restaurant run by a couple, and after ordering an expensive lamb chop, he began to enjoy his meal heartily. The taste is not bad. I'm used to eating regular meals in the monastery kitchen, so occasionally having some meat dishes adds a different flavor. This meal cost him a whopping 5 gold coins. In this era, there was no large-scale industrialized farming yet, so the price of lamb remained expensive. And another reason is that this is the central area after all, where every inch of land is valuable. Being able to open a shop here, if the things are not sold at a slightly higher price, it won't be possible to recover the capital. Since the decline of the Sane Empire due to internal reasons, the various small countries that were once oppressed by it have begun to open their eyes to the world and actively engage in international division of labor and cooperation. The Amazon Kingdom is a typical case, and there are many more small countries like this. The independence of nations has brought prosperity to the international economy. Every day, thousands of giant sailboats sail across the ocean, carrying loads of minerals from the Black Earth continent, iron tools from the Dwarf Kingdom, electric energy stones made by blue dragons, or magical items handcrafted by elves. Prosperous trade brings endless business opportunities. Even a slight fluctuation in the prices of international commodities can lead to immense wealth for countless individuals, while others may lose everything they have. Every day, numerous self-proclaimed savvy speculators discover new business opportunities. Their ambitions require financial support, so they join forces with wealthy conglomerates who are eager for wealth growth, forming unholy alliances. And Lebrelport, due to its unique geographical location, unparalleled natural harbor, and the special favor of the goddess of magic, has become the center of all this trade. And the Central District is specifically designated as the place for large international corporations to do business. It can be imagined how expensive the land is here. Therefore, a meal of barbecue costing 5 gold coins seems very reasonable. After finishing his meal, Hawthorne strolled along the streets in the central area, hoping to find 1 or 2 spell books that recorded spells of the second circle or higher, as well as some small trinkets to buy as gifts for the nuns. The tram to Nangang District will not be available again until evening, so he still has plenty of time to choose a desired gift before then. And take a good moment to remember, what does it feel like to go shopping in a modern society filled with tall buildings? The sun gradually moved south. After all, without a definite path, the attempt to buy a magic book ended in failure. Hawthorne could only hang his head in disappointment, carrying a package of jewelry boxes, and went to the station, taking the tram back to the Nangang District. And before the sun completely set, he finally left the central area that was almost like a modern city and returned to the old and backward Nangang District, walking all the way back to the monastery. At this moment, inside the monastery, several nuns gathered at the entrance, looking anxious, all waiting for him to return. Stepping through the gate and seeing his girls, Hawthorne's heart warmed. He walked up to them, about to say, "I brought you many gifts," when he suddenly saw Heidi take a step forward, her face tense, and say, "Master, something big has happened in the slums. The investigation team sent by the Black Cane Tower seems to have been annihilated here." Chapter 83, The Culprit, Is It a Butterfly? Hawthorne was taken aback. then quite shocked. What did you say? The Grey Hand squad was wiped out? That is the team under the Black Cane Tower, the largest violent organization in the open in the port of Libel, with over 500 powerful mages who have mastered the third circle spells. When they go crazy, they can even overturn the entire city, the Black Cane Tower. Oh my goodness, who has such audacity? And who has such immense power? Although over the years, Port Libel has gradually declined from being the southern gateway of the Seine Empire to becoming a comprador city serving international conglomerates, at least a starved camel is still bigger than a horse. If this creaking and decaying bureaucratic machine really gets angry and believes that the events in the southern port district endanger the safety of the entire Port Libel, and thus dispatches a real army of mages to take action, it is definitely something that the people of the southern port district cannot bear. Even Amazon Fisheries Company, with one careless mistake, could also face a catastrophic disaster. At the thought of this, his body trembled slightly, and he no longer had the enthusiasm to give gifts to the witches to make them happy. He quickly asked, "What exactly happened? Heidi, please explain in detail how you discovered the problem and what happened to the Grey Hand squad." Heidi hurriedly said, "That's right, this morning, not long after you left, Adeline's bugs discovered that the investigation team from Black Cane Tower didn't show up. Subsequently, based on the locations they had investigated in the previous few days, we conducted a more detailed search and then found several obvious bloodstains around an abandoned lumberyard. After comparing the blood in the blood packets of the mosquitoes handled by Andiani, we can confirm that the owner of those bloodstains is a member of the Black Cane Tower investigation team. They are highly likely to have encountered an accident at the lumberyard, and it is very possible that it resulted in a complete wipeout." Heidi coldly stated this conclusion, and Hawthorne couldn't help but turn slightly pale. "Done, it seems that things are already destined. The thunderous wrath of the Black Cane Tower is about to descend upon the Nangang district." "No." Suddenly, he furrowed his brows. "In the Nangang district, who else has both the strength and the courage to lay hands on the people of the Black Cane Tower?" Heidi was taken aback by the words. On the side, Chui Bai-Si furrowed her beautiful brows and then said, "Although there are countless gangs of all sizes in the Nangang district, there are probably only 3 that have the ability to accomplish this. Amazon Fisheries Company, Shanasa Guild, and Santolin Guild." She extended 3 fingers, counting them one by one, and concluded, "As for the other small factions, they are simply no match for the female paladin in the investigation team and the 15 elite warriors under her command." Hawthorne frowned. "It's true, but is it necessary for these 3 to take action? Even if it's the Shana Sa Guild, at most they can only bully the city guards. Do they have the courage to directly challenge the Black Cane Tower? Others may not be aware, and they may not even know that the leader of the Shanasar Guild is an I-demon, but as a player, Hawthorne not only knows it very well, but also understands its strength and weaknesses. Although this guy is a well-known tyrant with legendary strength, he is completely insignificant in front of the Black Staff Tower, which possesses divine artifacts. The current Lady Black Staff can easily crush this guy with just one finger. As for the other 2, that is even more impossible." In front of her, Chui Bai-Si's expression was slightly astonished, and then her tone hesitated. There shouldn't be. So, who else could have this ability and courage?" As she spoke, her voice grew quieter, and Hawthorne swallowed a mouthful of saliva, gradually forming a bold guess in his mind. "Everyone, what if? Could it be the chaos caused by a butterfly?" As soon as the words were spoken, all the women fell silent. Each person seemed to be choked by an invisible hand, and the monastery became deathly quiet. "Yes, it seems to be the most likely possibility. The butterfly in its prime had this power, and she, who has lost her memory and control, may also act without considering the consequences." Several nuns suddenly felt their hearts trembling. They could even foresee the moment when the mages from the Blackstaff Tower arrived at the slums, caught the true form of the butterfly, and followed the thread to discover the existence of the monastery. All the efforts they have made so far have all gone down the drain. Hawthorne also realized this and immediately made a decision. "Let's prepare right away. After sunset, we will immediately go to that lumberyard and see what's going on." He immediately started preparing on his side, while at the same time, a similar conversation had just begun at the headquarters of Amazon Fisheries Company in Nangang District. The investigation team of Black Cane Tower, along with our people, all disappeared around that lumberyard? Just about to leave work, female executive Gail Porter listened to her subordinate's report, her thick eyebrows furrowing tightly. In front of her, the woman reporting to her had an anxious expression, nodding repeatedly, "Yes, and based on the bloodstains we observed, it is very likely that they have all encountered misfortune." "Damn it," Potter cursed under her breath. She wasn't afraid of the incident when the monsters attacked Blackstaff Tower that night. After all, it had nothing to do with them, so there was no need to worry about a thorough investigation. At most, the members of the investigation team were just greedy. If she paid them some money, she could easily resolve the matter. However, if the investigation team is wiped out here, it would be equivalent to slapping the faces of the high-level officials in Lieberport. Although over the years, their faces have been swollen more than once or twice, in the past, it was only big corporations like Golden Dragon Bank, which could influence the world with just a flick of their fingers, that would lay hands on them. How could a small company like theirs have a chance? It can be imagined that this matter will inevitably provoke the furious anger of the higher-ups, and then they will send out the most elite team to completely turn the entire Nangang district upside down, even resorting to extreme measures as a deterrent. In this way, many arrangements made by the company over the years have been in vain. Amazon Fisheries Company said it is big, able to act recklessly in the Nangang district. Even the district government has to consider their opinions, but it is also small. After all, the Amazon kingdom behind them has only been established for less than 100 years, and it is a small island country that is very backward in all aspects. Far from the behind-the-scenes power of super conglomerates like Golden Dragon Bank and Blue Dragon Bank, which can influence the world situation with just a sneeze. Do not make a big deal out of this matter, everything must be resolved and settled tonight. Immediately inform my team, we are leaving now. Porter stood up abruptly, his gaze intense. Those people are walking straight into death, but they cannot die in the South Harbor District. Chapter 84 Storm Warhammer and Level 4 Warlock. Shahnasa Guild's secret headquarters, with a large build and a beard, Commander Kentz of the Shahnasa Guild, who recently seemed to have lost weight, looked at the sheepskin paper in front of him, on which lines of treaties were written with ink as red as blood, and felt his heart trembling. On the opposite side of him, a tall and thin figure wearing a black overcoat and a round top hat was looking at him with great interest. If Hawthorne were here, he would surely recognize his identity at a glance. Rigolas, the apostle of Mephistopheles, the demon offspring special agent who scared himself away. However, even though it was not explicitly stated and they had never met before, Kentz also vaguely realized who he was dealing with. He also realized that by signing this contract, he would become a traitor to humanity, unless he had great luck, otherwise his soul would never be able to wash away this sin. But, do I still have a way out? Thinking of the cold face of the Eye of the Hand, and the ugly face of his employer, the Castellant family, who insisted on devouring him alive, he took a deep breath, suppressed the nervousness and fear in his heart, and raised his hand to sign his name on it. A red light shone from the parchment and entered his body. His organs were strengthened, and the heavy fatigue caused by days of high pressure instantly disappeared. However, at this moment, he also sadly realized that his soul had been permanently branded with some kind of evil mark. Very well, Mr. Kentz. Seeing this, Regilas raised his hands wearing black cotton gloves and applauded gently. I admire your courage. Rest assured, when it comes to doing business, we always prioritize integrity. Speaking, he reached out his right hand. A silver light flashed, and immediately, a roughly 30 centimeters long, silver square hammer appeared in his hand. This is Storm Warhammer, containing the power of thunder. It is the weapon that the Dwarf King once used to defeat giants, he explained. Kentz looked at him coldly and asked, is it genuine? Of course not, it's a replica, Regilas admitted openly. After all, the genuine article was a true artifact. But for you, it's already enough. It still has 3 charges inside. Take a close look at it, and I believe you will understand how to use it. He continued, make good use of it, No one can remain conscious after being hit by it. With it, you can defeat any enemy. Kent didn't say anything, reached out, took the war hammer, and inserted its handle into the leather pouch at his waist. As long as you do as I say and wait around the lumberyard, you will definitely be able to retrieve the goods you lost. Regulus grinned. The Castellant family and the members of the Amazon Guild will also be begging for your forgiveness, like a pack of female dogs, kneeling on the ground. Kent did not comment. When do we start taking action? Regulus opened his mouth, about to say something, but suddenly his expression froze. After a few seconds, he looked slightly mysterious and said, "Tonight, right now, Kents, gather your people, we're taking action immediately." In the monastery dormitory, Hawthorne sat at the head of the bed, accompanied by Heidi, Yuta, and Turquoise. Looking at the remaining 360+ purification points, thinking about the dilemma he might face tonight, he gritted his teeth slightly and finally tapped lightly on the column of his own level. Buzz. 1,800 purification points were consumed, and then, a milky white purification light shone, and new power surged into his body. In the next second, his mana limit was expanded to 17 points, and the system in front of him also began to change. At the top, a line of small characters appeared. Please select your attribute value enhancement or learn a specialization. And below, there are 2 long columns of lists. Great, being able to choose freely. Hawthorne's heart was filled with joy, and he began to carefully read through it. At the top of the list were 6 attribute values, and he could choose to increase one attribute by 2 points, or increase 2 attributes by 1 point each. Only the other 5 items are green, indicating that they are optional. Only the charm item is gray, indicating that his charm attribute has reached the limit of mortals and cannot be further improved through leveling up. To further improve, one can only rely on some special treasures or ascend to the legendary realm. Hawthorne naturally wouldn't choose to enhance attributes, as it is the most unprofitable thing. He scrolled down the list and began searching for his desired expertise. There are also many gray options among the specialties, which indicates that he does not meet the prerequisites for that specialty. Perhaps the attributes are not enough, perhaps the profession is not right, or perhaps he must choose a prerequisite specialty before selecting this option. But overall, these projects are not much different from the ones in the game. Hawthorne had a rough idea in his mind, and he quickly made a decision about which one he wanted to choose. Super Magic Specialization, Extended Effect Spells. The effect is that when you cast a spell with a duration of at least 1 minute, you can spend an additional point of mana to double its duration, but it cannot exceed 24 hours. This is the optimal solution he came up with after considering the current situation. With it, his combat effectiveness has almost doubled. Immediately chose this super magical expertise. Suddenly, a soft white light lit up again, and countless knowledge flooded into his head. Hawthorne closed his eyes and carefully absorbed the newly acquired knowledge. Only after fully grasping it did he open his eyes again. Afterwards, he began to cast spells on himself, casting the Ring of Ascension, the second circle Aegis of Aegiscythe, and casting the spell of Prolonged Effect. Low-level spells can be upgraded to higher levels, just like the Aegis of Aegisius. It costs 3 mana points to cast its second-level version. Although it only costs a little more mana, its protection strength and rebound power are all doubled. Although its overall value is still not comparable to real second-ring spells, it is the best solution he can achieve now. In addition to the effect of the extended spell, now Hawthorne has spent a total of 4 mana points to obtain a second-tier Aegis of Aegisius with a duration of 2 hours. Okay, that's it. So, what's next? He then cast the same spell, giving himself a mage armor, the false life of the second ring, and the swift stride of the first ring, which altogether cost him 13 points of mana. He gained powerful athletic abilities and almost invincible magical protection as a result, but his maximum mana of 17 points instantly reached its limit, almost rendering him powerless in battle. However, Hawthorne remained completely calm. Okay, the blue is depleted, so now. Sleep. Cough. It is replenishing mana. Heidi, Yuta, Trudy, help me. He called out softly and then closed his eyes. On the side, Heidi was the quickest to act, stealing a light kiss on his lips before Yuta and Turquoise, who were still a bit shy and unable to let go in front of their sisters. Chapter 85, Magic Restoration and Sacrificial Grounds. As magical beings, witches may not have a wide range of spells or high levels of mastery, but their total amount of magical power is often astonishing. This is also the core reason why Heidi couldn't share too many spells with him but dared to give him so much magical power. Of course, it is also the fundamental reason why they will lose control on the Night of the Witches. However, at the moment, Hawthorne doesn't have to worry about the side effects of having too much mana. In short, with their help, it will only take a maximum of 1 hour for him to fully replenish his mana and return to his peak combat state. And the remaining time is when he is at his strongest fighting power. This is the best solution he has come up with, considering the current situation. The spring scenery is permeating in the dormitory, and the ancient and sacred magic replenishment ritual is slowly unfolding here. In the lumberyard, Anno and her warriors were rudely bound at the base of the wall. Her golden wavy long hair was messy and scattered, her delicate face was stained with blood, her blue eyes were filled with humiliation, biting her bright red lower lip, silent yet helpless. Her well-crafted plate armor has been taken off, and now she is only wearing a thin layer of cloth armor, tightly bound with hemp rope, revealing her body's curves without reservation. Especially the cleavage on her chest, it was squeezed to the bottom, revealing its full and enticing shape. Just one glance is enough to ignite desire. After all, she is a girl of noble birth. Even though she is still young, she has never lacked nutrition such as meat, eggs, and milk since childhood. As a result, her body naturally developed fully, far beyond what a girl from a poor family can compare to. Not only that, because of her extensive exercise, her skin does not show any signs of the plump and smoothness of wealthy women. Clear muscle lines can be seen on her upper arms, waist, abdomen, and calves, filled with a sense of strength, showcasing vibrant vitality. If it were ordinary bandits, thieves, or gang members, capturing such a young and beautiful female knight, they would have long been unable to resist the surging desire, tearing open her armor, and ruthlessly defiling her innocent and delicate body that has not yet experienced the world. But unfortunately, the ones who captured them were a group of already insane cult members. In pursuit of that elusive great ideal, they voluntarily removed a part of their brains, completing the spiritual castration of their selves. As a result, they had long lost the worldly desires in their hearts and were wholeheartedly focused on fulfilling their great ideal. Bring one up. In the center of the lumberyard, a small cult leader dressed in luxurious clothing gave orders. Beside him was a wooden plank bed, surrounded by various knives, while behind him stood a large wooden statue depicting an evil spirit over 3 meters tall. The demon had sharp fangs and hollow eyes. At the top of its head was a giant brain that was more than twice the size of the lower half of its face. It was intricately carved with mysterious and complex patterns, giving it a strange and terrifying appearance. The remaining cultists, upon hearing the sound, immediately pushed forward a member of the investigation team who was unconscious, and pressed him down onto the wooden bed. Then, the leader took out a surgical knife and stabbed it straight into the back of that person's head. Dash. Instantly, intense pain brought the person back to consciousness, and a muffled groan escaped from their throat. Their entire body began to convulse, and their limbs thrashed violently. However, the other cult members immediately held down their limbs, rendering them completely immobile. And the leader, undisturbed in the slightest, quickly opened his head completely, took out a fresh brain, then turned around and walked behind the statue, with a devout expression, placing the brain into a small compartment behind it. Fresh blood gushed out as the struggling soldier from the investigation team, whose brain had been extracted, gradually ceased to struggle and stopped breathing. At the same time, the hollow eyes of the statue suddenly emitted a bright red magical light. Success! Sure enough, these people's brains are much more useful than those of ordinary people. Quick, next one, let's push up the next one. The remaining cultists cheered. These investigators were all at least second-level warriors, absolute elites. Therefore, their mental abilities naturally far surpassed those of the untrained and malnourished slum residents. Corner, Anno, who saw the whole scene, was instantly filled with rage. Woo! She wanted to curse angrily and struggled, but her mouth was gagged and she couldn't say another word. Her limbs were bound and she couldn't make any resistance. She could only watch helplessly as those cultists dragged her another comrade over and placed them on the operating table over there. Buzzing. A mosquito flew slowly over, and the quick-witted subordinate of the cult leader swiftly reached out and slapped it, smack. A drop of blood burst in his palm, and the mosquito instantly dropped a dimension. The leader furrowed his brows slightly, looked up, and couldn't help but grumble discontentedly, "It's already autumn, why are there still so many mosquitoes?" "That is not a mosquito." A hoarse and piercing voice came from a distance, and the cultists quickly fell to their knees on the ground. The voice was fanatical, shouting loudly, "Hail the great Lord of Wisdom!" At the corner of the wall, Anua squinted her eyes. The sun had already completely set, and the moon's crescent light was slightly dim. Therefore, even with her vision, she could only vaguely see a huge object the size of a house slowly creeping towards her. Her heart couldn't stop pounding, realizing that this colossal creature might be the mastermind behind it all, as well as the culprit who went on a rampage and killed countless innocent civilians on the night of the double moon. Finally, that guy approached. And when Anne saw its true face, she almost suffocated for a moment. What a hideous and terrifying monster it is. It looks like a giant brain over 3 meters tall, but with sparse, slender tentacles growing along its brain folds. Its lower part is covered in worm-like appendages, and with its massive and bloated body, it slowly wriggles towards this direction. Anno only felt his scalp go numb, just by taking a glance. A great fear surged uncontrollably from the depths of his heart. Tyr, what kind of monster is this? It must be it, that caused the deaths of hundreds of people in the Nangang district, and it is also the creator of this cult. I must eliminate it. She nervously encouraged herself, with sweat on her palms and back. And at this moment, across from her, the butterfly, appearing in its true form, was still slowly moving, while a hoarse voice slowly emanated from its small mouth at the bottom. "That is a witch's disciple. I remember, her name is..." Her voice suddenly trembled again, then appeared extremely painful. "Ah, I can't remember, that evil witch, ah." The crowd of cultists immediately looked up, disregarding their own master's emotions. Each of their expressions was filled with shock. "Witch? Has a witch set her sights on us?"